पधारो हमारे देश যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে, তবে একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে। যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে।
बरसने लागी बदरिया रूम झूम के बरसने लागी बदरिया रूम झूम के रूम झूम रूम झूम रूम झूम के बरसने लागी बदरिया रूम झूम के बरसने लागी।
तोरे नैना की लागी कटार सजनी चैन पावे न मनवा हमार सजनी चैन पावे न मनवा हमार सजनी। तोर नैना नैना रे तोर नैना की लागी कटार सजनी।
pani sari gari sari bagari gari zani sa sani pava gari gari sa sani pava gari gari sa sani pava gari gari sa vata pi ganavatim bhajegam vata pi ganavatim bhajegam sari gari ga sari zani pani sari gari zani bagari vata pi ganavatim bhajegam.
Hello and good evening to everyone. It's time to enjoy because it's time for yet another invigorating session of Tete Tea, which is always special for all of us. Catching up with some eminent personalities and hearing them speak over an online chat session drew up excitement and enjoyment. I, Shafali Rawat Agarwal, Ehsas Woman of Calcutta, welcome you to yet another session of Tete Tea, which is one of in conversation initiatives of Prabha Foundation under its cultural heritage vertical. The foundation's Tete session is organized on the YouTube page of Kahali. Before I introduce the guest, Mr. Samar Khan, who will be in conversation with Ms. Advaita Kala, let me say a few words about Prabha Foundation. Prabha Foundation is a stellar organization which takes the best step forward to propagate of literature, art, and culture. The foundation was established by an eminent literature and cultural enthusiast, late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, back in the 1980s in the city of Calcutta. Prabha Khaitan Foundation curates best literary and art culture initiatives and projects that aim to create cultural capital on the global map. The essence is the soulful amalgamation of multicultural diversities of India through enriching and stimulating conversations. The foundation enjoys pan India and overseas presence through tastefully curated physical and virtual events organized in close association with patron Sri Cement Limited, distinguished associates, partners, collaborators, and Ehsas Women of India. Let me now say a few words about today's session, Tete, an engaging cultural initiative of Prabha Foundation, brews up conversation over a cup of tea. It is a freewheeling chat where notable personalities share insights on a particular topic and enlighten the audience with their experiences and knowledge. Without Advaita Kala, Tetati would not have been possible. We are highly grateful to Ms. Kala for creating Kahali platform and connecting our esteemed audience with eminent personalities from varied walks of life on her online platform that create scope for insightful dialogues and discussions. Today we have with someone who has been an integral part of the Bollywood industry. We have Mr. Samar Khan. Mr. Khan is the CEO of Juggernaut Production. I hope I'm right with the pronunciation. He
That's right,
is
yeah.
he is a veteran in the industry, having worked across TV journalism, TV production, films, documentaries, and OTT. He has a rich experience in writing, directing, and producing creating content for films, televisions, and OTT. In conversation with her, we have Miss Advaita Kala, who is a notable Indian author, screenwriter, and columnist. She is also known for writing the screenplays of romantic drama Anjana Anjani and thriller movie Kahani. She is also a novelist and has two novels to her credit, Almost Single and Almost There. During COVID-19 outbreak in India, she ran a community kitchen by the name Janta Rasoi in Gurugram. Today's topic is future of Bollywood and OTT, which is sure going to be an interesting one. Today's Teta Tea session is supported by Sri Cement Limited. Now it's time to begin the session. Over to you, Advaita, to initiate the conversation with Samar Khan. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shefali, and everybody to Terity. I think someone has the video on, so that may need to be switched off because there's a little playback. Yeah, we fixed that now. Wonderful. So thank you so much, Samar, for joining us on this evening, Monday evening, where we're going to be far away from a Friday release. So I think, this is good. We can discuss this without getting into specifics about any particular film, and nothing is weighing us or pulling us back in that sense. But Samar, I also want to share with the audience that Samar is one of the original from the 90s entertainment journalists, and I'm talking about TV entertainment journalists, because remember, that's when cable TV also took off. So he used to come on TV and do entertainment journalism. Then he kind of moved on from journalism on to direction. He's directed the much loved Shaurya, and after that, you're like me, Samar. You can't stick to one thing. Now he's like become this head honcho. And because that was a really loved film, you could have built a career, as a director, but you kind of moved on from that very quickly, didn't you?
I did actually. I think at that point of time also, certain things happened where, my film after Shaurya, for some reasons, was getting delayed and stuff. And then I got an opportunity to get into OTT, and I realized that, it's an exciting field and I should try my hand in that. And I think I think more than me deciding my career paths, life has decided my career paths. And whatever life threw at me, I took it as a challenge and I took it up and I said, okay, let's do this also. So I didn't really have a definite career path as such. Like you said yourself, that you keep dabbling in different things, and I keep dabbling in different things. And I've got a message saying thanks for creating the character Brigadier Rudra Pratap Singh. And coming on Shaurya, I would love to say that, unfortunately, Brigadier Rudra Pratap Singh has been misinterpreted by a lot of people, and I don't want to get into that discussion on this particular forum. But I think the film was made with a certain messaging behind it, and the messaging is of inclusion, and the messaging was of wanting to tell the world that the Indian Army is above caste and creed and religion, and the Indian Army only believes in the color of the uniform and the national flag and the pride of India. But the way, we all understand how creativity is. It is interpreted by different people in different ways. So
Sure.
let people interpret it the way they do. But
I
I can
always
just tell you,
say,
this is the way I made it.
translation rights belong with the viewer, frankly.
That's true,
I think
actually. That
all
is
of us. Yes.
that is true, actually. And I think that's that's the beauty of creation. That's the beauty of content creation, and I think that's also the sometimes it comes back to really bite you in the backside, because
Mm,
you didn't really want it to be interpreted a certain way, but it's interpreted a certain way by the audiences, and social media amplifies it. So
sure.
that's the world we live in. That's the world we live in, and we have to create content that we believe in. I think all content creators have to work, and you have written two films, and I don't think many people know, but Advaita and I also collaborated on a show called Illegal Season 2, which was last year. And I think I think creating content has to come from your own gut belief and your own system, and your own wanting to say something through the characters that you are creating. And
Mm,
you and the audience can interpret it in any kind of way, and
mm,
so you don't really have control over that, Advaita. I mean, you've done two films, and you have also, you write columns, and you are a much loved and much hated person on Twitter. So what you are saying. So
yeah.
you know what you're saying, but you really can't control the interpretation that the audience has.
Okay. But you've had a leaning towards, knowing you that the way I do, I know that you do have a leaning towards stories that do have a backdrop of the armed forces.
Yes, I do actually, and I think not many people, or I think a lot of people now know it, that I was in the National Defense Academy, and I was there to complete.
Were you?
I was there. Yes, I was there
I
in
didn't
the
know
National
that.
Defense. Yeah, so I was there for almost, like, almost, or not almost. I was there for 3 years, and for some reasons I could not, pass out from there. So all my friends are now in the army, in the navy, in the air force. So I have a natural leaning towards uh, that way of life, and I feel that I have a natural understanding of that way of life. So
Of
a
that
lot of the
world.
stuff
So,
that I have, yeah, of that world. So from starting from Shaurya, then moving on to Test Case or Kodem or Avrodh or Shurveer. I've done lots of shows which center around uh, army and army stories, and I also wanted to expand the world of what we consider military films, because most of us think that military films are only about war and only about the battlefield. But there are so many stories about the Indian Army or the Air Force or the Navy, because they're also human beings. They have emotions. They also fall in love. They also have disappointments. They also have different things happening in their way of life. And you can tell those stories. You can tell them to the audience, because
mm,
they are supermen on the battlefield, but they are human beings. They are fathers. They have sisters. They have mothers. They have wives. They have girlfriends. They make mistakes. They do every. I mean, they're human beings. So I mean, why should we not explore that field? And that was my intention, and that's what I try and do in my shows also. That I try and explore the different facets of people's lives in the armed forces. I think Advaita has gone blank. And now she's come back. And she's gone blank again.
mm. Yeah, sometimes, I hear from. Can you?
I can hear you, but you're breaking up. Is it my internet connection, or is it yours? Or I have no idea. You have gone blank.
I'm here. I'm here.
I'm also here.
Samar.
Yes, I'm also here. I'm also here.
Okay, great. Wonderful to hear that. Samar, sometimes when I speak
It's again
when I
gone
speak to
off.
people from the
Is
other
there something
branch,
wrong?
I spend no, I'm here. When I speak to people
Okay.
from the other branches of the armed forces, sometimes they say that there's too much focus of the entertainment industry on army operations, not so much on, say, BSF or CRPF or, these other paramilitary forces that we don't seem to make those stories about. Why do you think that there's such a bias? We see the odd Air Force story, but they're predominantly stories about the army.
I think also because we have to understand that the army is the one that holds the ground, and army is the one that leads to a lot more drama. So when we talk about the Air Force or the Navy, I mean, we are people. I think people are attempting it. I mean, now, for example, like I did a show called Shurveer, which was about Army, Navy, Air Force. I'm trying to do more shows about the Navy operations. We have had films in the past also. Now there is a film called Fighter that's being made by Hrithik Roshan. Siddharth Anand is making that film. It's about the Air Force. Tejas is being made, which is about the Air Force. So things are changing. People are now making more content about the Air Force, but Army, because I think it's the most recognized thing.
Hmm.
Sorry, it's the most recognized thing about the armed forces. Everybody knows about the army. हम जब
Hmm.
भी फौज की बात करते हैं तो we normally look at the green uniform, and we've always spoken more about it. And most of our operations have been largely, a lot of them have been ground operations. We have done a lot of, like for example, we talk at Kargil or Bangladesh, or yes, the Air Force and the Navy was a very 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 able force, and it was a tri-service operation. But we're also surrounded by land from three sides, so a lot of the operations are more led by the army. And if you look at internationally also, if you look at Hollywood also, the most of the films are about the army.
Hmm.
Because like I said, it's on the ground. I mean, Air Force is up in the air, so it's very difficult to really make a film of people flying in the aircraft. You only have a split second to do the operation and come back. You go, you bomb,
But
and you come back.
look at Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, but Top Gun
What a
is about a training institute. But it's about a training institute. I mean, when you
Hmm.
see the first Top Gun was about a training institute. It wasn't about the Air Force as such. It was about
Hmm.
the training school of the Air Force, which is where you got your drama and stuff. But if you look at all the patriotic films that are made, and the films that, or the kind of shows that give you the feeling of extreme patriotism, it's about putting your flag on the ground and saying Jai Hind and stuff like that. So I think that is one of the reasons why the army gets a lot more prominence. And I'll just like to correct Jay that I don't think it's about the strength of the Indian Army. And yes, Anuj, the BSF also covers border areas, but while engaging with the enemy, it's primarily the army that takes over and does most of the heroic exercise things. No, Arijit, Top Gun is not just about the Naval Institute. I mean, yes, it's about naval pilots. So it's a pilot institute. So it's not just about the Navy. So, like I said, it's the BSF, CRPF, and all are 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 getting explored now, Advaita. We also have to understand that I mean, we are doing a show right now where we are talking about the police. Somebody else is now going to talk about the BSF. People are going to talk about the CRPF. People will start talking about them because I think if you were going to make one film or three films a year about the defense forces, then the army took away a chunk of that,
Hmm.
attention. Now with OTT shows coming and more content being created, I think
Hmm.
people will start exploring other things, and people will start exploring other institutes and other places where we will like there are people I know who are developing shows about the BSF, about CRPF, about the great stories of valor that come from there, because I think all our paramilitary forces require equal amounts of respect, and they do so much of stellar work in protecting our country and protecting our country's borders and protecting our country from internal strife, that there will be stories which will be created about them. And like I said, it's a new industry. I mean, the OTT industry, Advaita, has just been 5 or 6 years old. 2017 is when it started. We're just 5 years old. So I think slowly we will explore more and more. I mean, if you just saw a show called Khaki that was made on Netflix, it's about a very brave police officer, who was in Bihar. So there will be shows which will start exploring other things, and I think it's just a matter of time. I don't think it's
Hmm.
that deliberately somebody is overlooking anything of that sort.
Right. Okay, and now let's like sort of slide into our topic of the day, which is really
The
about
future.
future of Bollywood. So there's a lot of if you read the media reports, Samar, there's a lot of doom and gloom around the future of Bollywood. The big movies have failed this year. Then we had COVID. Then you have, of course, inflationary issues, and going to a movie hall is prohibitive because it is expensive if you're a family of four. And you
Sure.
have OTT, which is giving you so much more so many more options to choose your time, choose your company, and enjoy it at home at a fraction of what you would pay to go to a multiplex. So in this given environment, where the big films are really not doing well, there seems to be a shift in viewer choices. And I want to know, is there a sense of anxiety in the industry? Is there a repivoting that is going on? Are people taking note of this change, and is the industry
I
going to change, or
see.
are
I
they going to
think
stick
I
to where they do?
no. I don't think anybody is going to be foolish enough to stick to a losing position. If you're feeling that there is a shift in the audience perception and audience tastes and audience belief, then obviously you as an industry to survive will shift, will
Hmm.
change. And I would like to say over here, like, this is in my 25 years of being in the business. I think this is pretty much the third or the fourth time that I've been on a panel where somebody has said that this is the end of Bollywood, and oh, we are going to go through a really bad phase. I mean, we had the whole sorry, we had the whole VHS thing which came up, and everybody said that, oh, people will now sit at home and watch a movie and nobody will go to cinemas to watch movie. Then we had piracy that came in, and everybody was like, oh, now again Bollywood will not be able to survive it and people will sit at home and watch it. Then we had cable TV that came, and everybody said, oh, now the satellite rights are being sold at a very small price and people can sit at home and watch it. Why would they go and watch it at cinemas? So it's a cyclic thing, and I think we need to understand that it's been primarily, if you remove COVID. I mean, COVID was a time where I don't think any industry was able to plan for the future, Advaita. I mean, nobody knew what the future will be post COVID. So, COVID, if I remove COVID from it, I mean, I think Bollywood has had one bad year. And that one bad year is suddenly you have had headlines all over the place saying that, oh my God, the industry is going through a bad phase. Yes, I would say that it's been a tough year, but if you see the numbers, if you go by sheer numbers, and if you go by just the sheer kind of box office figures, there was an article I was reading in the Economic Times that the total box office number has pretty much remained the same of this year. The percentage of Hindi films has gone down, but the total
Interesting.
number has remained the same. Now that's something that I think we have to keep in perspective, that there is a shift in primarily people not wanting to go and see the Hindi films, but people are still going and watching films. I mean, today, Avatar, I think has done about 150 crore weekend, which is massive, and it's done in all languages. It's done in all languages. It's not Hindi. I'm not saying only Hindi. It's done 150 crore box office in India. Now we have to look at the larger picture. Now, if I look at Hindi cinema, and we talk about Hindi cinema, because Hindi cinema is the most popular form of spoken about cinema. I would not like to get brickbats by saying that it's the most popular kind of cinema, whatever. It's most spoken about, but there has been a paradigm shift in the last 2 years or 3 years where films from the South and more actors from the South are gaining acceptability and gaining popularity at par with Hindi film stars. We have had. I mean, let's not kid ourselves that one of the biggest names of the Hindi film industry has been Mr. Rajnikant, who does not come from Hindi cinema. One of the biggest names has been Mr. Kamal Hassan. He does not come from Hindi cinema. Mr. NTR, Mr. MGR, they don't come from Hindi cinema.
Correct. You mean in
So
the film industry? Yes,
the
in the
film
Indian
industry, in
yeah.
the Indian film
Mammootty,
industry,
Mammootty and Mohanlal and
Mohanlal and Mammootty, and there's so many names. There's so many names if you come down to it. It's just that it's like Hollywood, that they're marketed much better. So Hindi cinema gets marketed much better. People speak about it much more. People write about it much more. and it's more popular in the world outside. I mean, if you go towards Malaysia and all these places, Tamil and Telugu and the other things are far more popular than Hindi cinema is. So
Right.
so Hindi cinema is facing a challenge. For sure, it's facing a challenge. What will happen to it? I think for anything to have any kind of data, pure data, Advaita, we need to give it 2 or 3 years. You cannot
Mm.
base a judgment on changing the whole thing that's been working for so many years over one bad year. And you've had one bad year, and you suddenly everybody can't panic because of that. I mean, obviously, the usual things are being said about the film industry, which like, oh, we need to make bigger films, we need to
Mm.
make spectacle films, we need to do all of that for sure. For sure. And I think somebody very interestingly pointed out on the chat right now that yes, there is a huge challenge that the OTT world has thrown to cinema. Now it depends about how filmmakers are going to take that challenge, because the OTT world is giving people a lot more option. There are
So
far more opportunities.
tell me, Samar, I want to explore this a little more with you. When you say that there is a shift in viewer taste towards regional or let's say cinema from the south as opposed to Hindi film cinema, why do you think that is? Because Hindi film cinema production
Because we
values
had a
are
choice.
on
Because we
par.
have a choice now. Advaita, we have a choice. So two things. I mean,
Is
one
it
thing, two
us
things I would like
stars?
to.
Stars are not
No,
appealing.
it's not. No, I
What is
don't
it?
think so. I think there are two things we need to come. We need to address it on two issues. Number one, I think a lot of regional cinema has, and I'm saying it out, putting my neck on the line and saying the regional cinema has far superior writing than Hindi cinema.
Hmm.
Their writing
Oh,
is
blame
far
the
superior.
writers. Classic.
No, I'm
Blame the
not.
writers when things go
No,
wrong.
I'm not. I'm not blaming the writers. I'm blaming a system. Now, in
Hmm.
that system, we the regional cinema, regional cinema has got great writing. So the writing is plays a very important part in it. Sorry, I think also what has happened is that regional cinema because of OTT, and because of the films which were dubbed and brought out and stuff, people have started watching them, sampling them. Word has
Hmm.
spread, and there is a choice that the audiences have today between. It's like saying that if you didn't have a choice, then you would eat the same food every day. But if you had choice, you would
Yeah.
try and sample some other food, you would try and sample some other content, and once you sample it and if you like it, then you would promote it, and social
And
media makes that promotion much easier.
and also, I mean, if you talk about, of course, RRR, you know,
Yeah,
Golden Globe nominations, Critics' Choice Award nominations, Best Picture there, Best Director. I mean, big ticket nominations. Not small ones.
yeah.
Oscars. Let's see what happens. What's happening there? I mean, so we're talking about India, but even on a global scale, they're getting something right.
Yeah, but see, we also have to remember that, maybe RRR is our crouching tiger, hidden dragon. That, there was
Hmm.
one breakthrough film that came out from Hong Kong, and suddenly everybody started noticing Hong Kong, and everybody suddenly felt, oh, those are great films. It's not that,
Hmm.
it's the flavor. So RRR is maybe our crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Maybe it is our Life is Beautiful. It's not that Italian
Hmm.
cinema was not great before that. Hollywood suddenly noticed it in Life is Beautiful. They did
Hmm.
they did notice it before that, but mainstream. So
Hmm.
RRR is a great example of a film that is now the flavor of the season. But
Hmm.
we seem to forget that Telugu cinema makes lots of films. Every week they are having a release over there, but all films are not being able to cross over. A
No, and
few
they
films have crossed over.
and as an industry also, when we talk about films in India, regional films that have like artistic value, Telugu cinema doesn't really come to the fore. You talk of Malayalam or
No, not at all.
Bengali.
Malayalam, because see, Telugu cinema and Tamil cinema, Telugu and Tamil cinema is far more commercial in its outlook.
Yeah.
It's far more commercial in its outlook. So I think Telugu and Tamil cinema, like you rightly said, don't come into the artistic,
Hmm.
speaking
The
about. It's
first,
Malayalam or Bengali.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Malayalam or Bengali that gets spoken about more. But coming back to the point that it's not that all South films are going to do a crossover into Hindi. There will be
Yeah.
some films which will do a crossover into Hindi. Hindi films or Hindi content creators, I mean, are going through a process of rejigging, realigning, trying to figure out things, gauging audience taste. But it's too early. again, like I said, it's too early. Surya Vansham came out last November, which was our first big release post the COVID opening up of cinema theaters. So
That's right.
actually,
You're
it's
right.
just been, yeah, it's just been a year. It's
Hmm.
just been a year. And yes, we have had, 5 or 6 big films or 7 films that have not worked.
Not yet.
But we have had years like this in the past also. I think the
Hmm.
noise is just amplified too much. It's just amplified, and everybody now wants to just talk about and say, oh, the future. And it's 2 3 events. Yes, the films have not worked. There have been 4 or 5 really big films from the south that have worked. So suddenly everybody's now, it's just too much of noise. We need to no, I'm not saying that as bad as Hindi, Jay. I'm not saying southern industries not doing as bad as Hindi. And probably the reason is presence of single screens. Sure, I mean,
Hmm.
single screens, it's a very important point he's made that single screens do make a huge impact. See, pricing is one aspect, Advaita, which is a separate aspect of our
Yeah.
discussion. I think the main thing the one thing that we were discussing over here was the noise that's created, and everybody suddenly seems to spell doomsday.
Hmm.
The one point that I think pricing, which you also brought up, Advaita, I think it's a very important point that pricing needs to be rejigged. But again, it's a private business.
Correct.
We are no one to tell PVR or Inox how much to sell their tickets at.
Hmm.
Okay, if they are not going to sell tickets, they will shut shop. So they are also businessmen. If they are going to run into losses, they'll figure it out. They'll figure
Hmm.
it out and say that, okay, this is the price we need to price up films at.
Hmm.
So I think I don't think that we can tell anybody, we can't go to a restaurant and tell them to price it at a certain point. We
Hmm.
can,
Hmm.
if they are losing money, Advaita, and if they are losing business, I think they are smart enough to understand that they need to rejig their prices.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to do well, they will do it. They
Hmm.
will, of course,
Correct.
do it. I mean,
You
yeah,
know,
sure.
there's also been, I saw some news reports, interesting ones, like people like Varun Dhawan, Ranveer Singh saying, oh, we want to do South Indian movies now. So there's like a reverse migration happening, right? Back in the day, it was like if a South Indian, film actor cross over to Hindi cinema, fairly or unfairly, he became like a national icon or somebody who had achieved a level of success. Now it almost seems to be working in reverse because you have these young heartthrobs from the Hindi film industry, both of them successful, wanting to move to the south.
I don't think they want to move to the south. I think the idea is collaboration, and I think we are also seeing a kind of cross pollination, and I would say a mini kind of globalization in our industry, where they're realizing that because the south stars, like for example, and Allu Arvind or a Prabhas,
Mm,
or a junior NTR, or a Vijay Setupati, they are all becoming very popular names. So they're
mm,
realizing that why not collaborate? And there is, see, why not collaborate? Why not get into that space where they can collaborate? For example, again, I'll give you an example that, I mean, Jackie Chan was not a Hollywood star. Jackie Chan was a star in Hong Kong, in that region. But suddenly, when he became a big star over there, he did one film that did the crossover, and suddenly he was a big Hollywood star, and everybody wanted to collaborate with him. If you look at and Antonio Banderas, he's not the conventional Hollywood star. He was big in the Spanish industry. He was big in a regional part of the global industry. And suddenly, when
true.
he became big, everybody wanted to collaborate with him. So,
Mm,
I mean, the film industry works with market forces. And if market forces are today demanding that there is collaboration that happens between various industries, it will happen.
it
We
will
have
happen.
had, it will happen. I mean, let's not forget the fact that people like Mr. Guru Dutt, people like Mr. Rishikesh Mukherjee, people like Mr. SD Burman, they all came from Bengal to Bollywood.
Mm,
They were not the traditional Hindi film
directors.
what were
Mm,
directors or filmmakers or music directors. They all came from there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
a cross pollination is a function of market forces. So if a Prabhas or a junior NTR is doing a huge box office, a big Hindi film actor would like to collaborate with him, because he would be like, why not? And
Yeah, and also I think in the 2000s, late 90s, we had that Punjabi moment on in Hindi cinema. Where you had a lot of Punjabi influence
yes,
in cinema, in songs, in all of those things. And now maybe do you think we're moving towards that, South Indian, because Hindi
I
cinema
don't
like
know. I don't. I mean, that
national,
would be,
it's national
yeah.
in that
But
level.
see, I would say that cinema has always been, and you and I were discussing this, Advaita. Cinema has always been a vehicle for our cultural. It's the
In
soft
fact, it's the
cultural.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a soft cultural representation of our culture. It's not a documentary film. It's not a dance performance. It's not all of that. It's basically a soft representation. It's a soft representation of our culture. So whether it's the song and dance, whether it's the way we eat our food, whether it's anything else, we
Mhm.
represent our culture through cinema. And most of the films, like you pointed out, were rooted in Punjabi culture,
Correct.
or mostly in North Indian culture, because that's where the maximum revenue came from. It was a
Hmm.
function of revenue.
Hmm.
So, it was a function of revenue. And when we talk about the big filmmakers, when we talk about people who really popularized the cultural milieu of the country, people like Surat Barjatia or Mr. Yash Chopra or Mr.
Hmm.
Karan Johar, they are all from the north of the country.
Yeah.
So they made that culture more popular. But when a Maniratnam sir makes a film like Roja or a Bombay, he brings the culture of the south to the forefront. He brings that culture into the cinema that he makes.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
we are seeing, and if today the audiences have also, like, the content we are making on OTT. I think OTT is a prime example, Advaita, where you're seeing actors from all over the country being brought to the mainstream.
Yes.
We
Good
I mean, we
actors
did
that wouldn't
very
get
good
the spot
actors.
on the big
Correct. I mean,
screen.
yeah, we did a show called Avrodh, where we had Abir Chatterjee, who's a huge actor in Bengali cinema. We brought him to OTT. I know he made his debut. We did a show called Shurveer, where Regina Cassandra was brought on, and made and she did a Hindi show. There are so many other things that people are doing. Samantha, I mean, people forget that before anything else, she was in Family Man.
Hmm.
And Family Man really was like a breakthrough for Samantha. So
Hmm.
what the OTT is, I think, a great example where you're seeing that more and more stories are being set in different regions of India, and more and
Hmm.
more people are being cast from there. It's no longer that you don't need to have a North Indian man play a South Indian character.
But
Yeah.
no, but tell me, Samar, when are we going to have a breakthrough, like a Fauda, for example? You know, that's gone global. Why are we, with such an old industry, with such an industry where there's so much money invested, why are we not able to make that breakthrough content?
Um, I don't think that we are not able to make the breakthrough content. I think, uh, again, you are, yes, giving the example of Foda. There is a Squid Game that breaks through from somewhere else, and comes up. And I think I think my answer to that, Advaita, would be that I think we are making content right now to appeal to an Indian audience.
Hmm.
Because we are a huge audience, and we seem to forget that we have to cater to that audience first, and we are catering to that sensibility to start with, because we are a large audience. But uh, I would say that there are shows that uh, have done reasonably well outside. We haven't had that one breakthrough show yet, which has
Hmm.
done internationally very well. I mean, yes,
Correct.
I would be foolish to say that we have done that. We really
Hmm.
haven't reached that show yet, which internationally has done well. When it's going to happen is is anybody's guess, because I think nobody
No,
knows.
that was my next question. As someone who's in the business, who's actively developing concepts, talking to people, listening to pitches, in the mix, how far away do you think we are, from what you hear in the industry? Not necessarily something you're doing yourself personally, but from the
I don't
noise
think
and
we are
talk.
very far away. See, I don't think
Hmm.
we're very far away, because we are now exploring. If you were to ask me honestly, Advaita, I think the most brilliant thing that's happened because of OTT is that I think more and more writers are getting an opportunity to tell their stories,
Hmm.
because we were only making 200 films a year. So
Hmm.
now in 200 films, there is only a certain amount of storytelling that you can achieve. I think
Hmm.
because of OTT, more stories are getting told. More
Hmm.
stories are getting an opportunity to reach the audience. More people are able to bring their stories from the heartland or from the hinterland are coming up. I mean, if you see the popular shows of the year, whether it was
Hmm.
a Gullak, whether it's a Panchayat, whether it's Tabbar,
Love it.
whether
Yeah.
yeah, whether it's a Mumbai Diaries, whether it was a Rocket Boys, whether it's
Hmm.
an Aryanak, there are these are shows that are diverse in nature, but they are
Hmm.
finding their audiences, and that I think is the beauty of the OTT world, where more and more storytellers are getting an opportunity. And that is
Hmm.
where the greatest challenge to Bollywood lies. I think the greatest challenge to the Hindi film industry is because more and more stories are getting explored. So the what uh, what what I think the Hindi film industry needs to do is to then up the game, to either make it a great visual spectacle, because we can't really compete with that on a
Hmm.
small screen, on a laptop screen, and also enhance their writing. Because if you look at Avatar, I think if you read the reviews of Avatar, if you read what the press has said about Avatar, I think what they basically said is that even though it's a great visual spectacle, it's also very good storytelling.
Hmm.
So they're not missing that out. So it all
Hmm.
boils down to the fact that more and more storytellers are getting an opportunity with OTT, and I think it's just round the corner. I mean, it's just round the corner. It just needs that one show to get international recognition, to
No,
get
because
international whatever.
I always feel that we have such a great tradition or a legacy of storytelling, even if you go as far back as our epics. They but we've not been able to do the Game of Thrones, the Lord of the Rings, all of those things. So I just sort of circle around that every once in a while. But
Yeah, but
move. Okay, go ahead,
we are
Samar.
not we are not we are not we are not that old in industry also, Adita. I mean, people have been doing a lot of content creation in Hollywood for a really long time. They also have more budgets to play with. They're looking at a they're looking at like a global audience. We are still looking. See, English is a language is spoken pretty much all across the world. People watch English films all over the world. Hollywood has marketed that really well.
Yeah, and
we
Hollywood has made the American president the strongest and the most powerful man in the world. Whether and today
correct.
that's more of a myth than a reality, but they've done that.
Yeah, but
They've
they marketed it really well. I mean, they
yeah.
marketed their films really well, and it's a very well-oiled machine. So we are quite a distance behind them. Let's not kid ourselves, but we will get there. We will get there, and I think technology has really helped in bridging the gap between the two industries very quickly.
Hmm.
And especially like I said, OTT content, because now everybody gets it. So it's not that you have to watch it in a cinema screen. You can watch it at home. So I think that has really changed the game.
Do you think, Summer, we need like a structured plan? I remember when I lived in Myanmar, I was in an apartment that was right across the road from the most famous film theater there. And once there was these, cars lined up, and this is a country, of course, that was getting out of very despotic rule and moving towards democracy at that time. Tragically, it's gone back to despotic rule. But during that time, it was making that transition. So it was still an oddity to see, a buzz around us, cinema hall and nice cars and the buzz of glamour and red carpet. So I remember being perched on my window and watching from afar, and I found out that it was actually the Koreans, the South Koreans, and they were
Hmm.
running a whole festival and bringing their top Korean stars to a country like Myanmar, which is really a small audience for them. Although I have to admit that their film tastes are split between Hindi soaps and Korean films. That's really the two areas at that time. This is 2012, 2013, 10 years ago. So that was where they were split. But I felt that, wow, look at, South Korea, small country, uh, you know, uh, has its own brand of content. And now you see it in India also. I mean, it's taken over mainstream Indian viewing. If you go to like chat sites and things like that, people are talking about Korean soaps and love stories, and more than happy to watch it. Now, how do we do that? Do we need like government support? Do we need a plan?
I don't think we need no. I don't think we need government support, Advaita. I think we are in a small way doing it, and I think the people used to, for example, in the 90s and the early 2000s and stuff. You had you had the stars who used to go and do these big concerts at Wembley. They used to do the concerts all over the world and stuff like that. And over there, everybody, that was how popularity was gained by Hindi films. We went out there. I mean, for example, we started the IFA Awards. The IFA Awards was another way of us reaching out to the world and doing it on a huge scale. Making the huge hue and cry. It started in the year 2000. So I think our globalization journey started from there, Advaita, when liberalization hit us. And before that, we were a limited industry. I think Dilwale Dulhania was pretty much one of the first films that did huge business
Crossed over.
overseas. It
The
did it
NRI
did the
market. Yeah.
NRI culture, and everybody suddenly realized that, oh, the NRIs want to watch, and they were no longer ashamed to watch Hindi films. There
Yeah.
was a time when, yeah, I mean, the 80s and the early 90s, audiences were ashamed to even listen to Hindi songs, and people were like, oh, I don't watch Bollywood. I mean, Bollywood was not fashionable. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so first we have to win over our own audience. Then we will then we will go to the white skin. We are if we are able to For example, Advaita, let's look at the numbers. uh, Today we are 150 crore population in this country. Okay,
Hmm.
and even if a film does 300 crores and your average price of a ticket is 150 rupees, that means only 2 crore people have seen your film. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Out of
Hmm.
150 crores, only 2 crores have seen your film. So I think we first have to win over our own audience before we go and start making this huge hue and cry about, let's go and win over the foreign audiences. We don't actually need to.
I'm thinking of it more in terms of soft part, more than winning over, but just in terms
Yeah,
of
but the soft part, I think the
using
soft part,
as a medium of influence.
yeah, but I think the soft part is still a lot there, Advaita. I think you've had people are today Mr. Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan or they're or A.R. Rahman. They're hugely popular names internationally. And like you rightly said, RRR has made that shift. So our films are being spoken about. Bollywood is something that the world can't ignore. People are using Bollywood to promote their countries. I mean, if you see, there are so many festivals and fairs that are you are like I said, they do in India, where they are asking Indians to come there and shoot their films. They're asking
Hmm.
Indians to come there because Indians
Yeah.
have the spending power, and it all boils down to what? It all boils down to the fact that the world is in a recession, but we are not. And
I
they
remember.
want Indians to spend their money.
Yeah, I
So
remember I got one offer where they said, "This is the location. Now, can you build a film around it?" And I said,
yeah,
"What?"
so that is the that is now that's the way it is, that we are. I mean, we are using Bollywood soft power. We are using Bollywood's soft power to promote ourselves as a country, as a culture, as an economy. And everywhere, whether it was and everywhere where we go for summits. I mean, let's look at it like that. I mean, yesterday at the FIFA World Cup, you had a Deepika Padukone who went and unveiled the trophy. Now, I mean, you can create whatever noise you want to create about it. But football is not even an Indian. It's not that Deepika Padukone was invited because she's a global icon. And
Nora Fateh
football,
is also there, by the way. Nora Fateh was
exactly,
also.
Nora Fateh was performing. So it's a global sport. Now, if she was performing for a cricket World Cup, I can still understand, oh, she's Indian and blah, blah, and all of that. But she was a global brand ambassador standing next to a Spanish goalkeeper who's played for Real Madrid. He's played for Spain, Casillas. So why was
Hmm.
Deepika Padukone chosen? Deepika Padukone was chosen because she's a global brand and
Now,
she's a
tell me
global
something.
face.
This is where I want to ask you. Do you think it was because she's a global face, or if we hark back to your previous comment where you say we are not in recession, we have money to spend, and we have faces like Deepika who represent that market? So hence she's getting tapped into. So it's really a combination of economics as well
Of
as
course it
being
is.
the right, the
Advaita,
right,
Advaita, both
at
of
the
us
right
know
time
it.
for the country.
Of
Yeah.
course it is. And I think both of us know it and both of us realize it that India right now is in the sweet spot. I mean, post COVID, China getting, kind of boycotted by the world. The world realizing that you can't depend and you can't put all your eggs into one basket. India becoming the next best bet for the West. And India will be what do you say, nurtured. And I mean, let's put our hands up and realize and say that there was a time when we had a deluge of Miss Worlds and Miss Universes that came from India, and then suddenly for 20 years nobody won it. So what, we stopped producing beautiful women? I mean, it's all
Hmm.
economics. It all boils down to
But
economics.
the
So
beauty cosmetic market exploded. Yeah,
exploded. So it's all
exactly.
economics. And I think we are at a very interesting space in our history where cultural shifts are happening, and content creators are grasping with it. We are every day struggling because every day there's a new cultural shift, something new comes up. There was a millennium generation, now there is a Gen Z generation, then there will be some other generation we'll have to cater to. Things are evolving really fast. So yeah, I mean, content is very, very, it's an interesting space. And for us content creators, it's exciting space because there are more new stories to tell.
No, this is a good question actually, and I want you to put on your producer hat. China invites people to come shoot with us in their country.
Yeah.
We, on the other hand, pitch our films as wonderful films if they're shot abroad. Shouldn't we kind of,
China does not. I mean, I think I would like to ask Mr. Bedi that China really does not have too many shooting friendly policies, and they don't really invite people to shoot in their country. Number two, the problem would be that most of us in India is a unique country, so the story needs to be set in India in a way that it needs Indian backdrop. Otherwise it gets very difficult for a film that is based in New York to be shot in India, or a film that is based somewhere else to be shot over here. I mean, you can talk about Lord of the Rings. They went to New Zealand because they had to create it in the Middle Earth, and they had vast jungles and they had infrastructure and all of that. So I think India has enough films being made in India to be shot in India that will really generate the economy from India. So we don't really need the West to come here. And I think, like I said, we are a unique landscape, Advaita. So it gets very difficult for a film unless it's really based in India, to suddenly use the Indian landscape to tell a foreign story. And so I don't think China also does that. I don't know. I mean, I would not like to. I would like to not hazard a guess, but I don't think China has a very friendly, come and shoot in our country,
were
kind of
doing it,
policy.
a couple of years ago because I was again working on a particular project where in
No,
China
fair enough.
was.
They did it because they were doing it because they suddenly were opening up their market. But then COVID happened, they
Yeah.
slammed the
And they
market
stopped.
shut again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
it's all
now
about it's all economics.
Cafe Domus has asked this a couple of times, so we'll just ask it now. When are we going to make a Gemini Man a movie shot at 120 frames per second? Do you know anything about
See,
this? I mean,
it's a technical. That's a technical thing, and you can shoot a movie at 120 frames a second, but you need a maverick filmmaker with a maverick thought to try and do that. So I hope there is somebody listening in, and a maverick filmmaker decides to make a film like that, or the story demands a film like that. We have also made a film called, I don't know how many of you remember it. I mean, we made a film called Pushpak, which was a silent film made in the 80s. which nobody
Hmm.
had ever heard of. And then suddenly West is realized, and they made a silent film. They made The Actor, and everybody spoke about The Actor, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Hollywood has made the film called The Actor, which is all about a silent film." Guys, we did it in the 80s. So, we need to also talk about our cinema. And when will we do this is an interesting question. But when the story demands it, I guess the filmmaker will do it.
Hmm.
I need to leave. I think
Yeah,
Advaita,
I think we're
my
done. I think we're done. We kind of definitely enjoyed this. It's always a freewheeling conversation with you, Samar. And I really want to thank you for sparing the time.
no, no, my pleasure. It was great fun,
We had a
and I
really
hope.
engaged audience also today, so that was great.
Oh,
Comments were
that was
just non-stop.
I
So that's
So
always
that was
nice.
great fun, and I would like to thank everybody who's involved in this. And it's a great initiative, guys. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job of taking, and bringing forward our culture and stuff. And if anybody's listening in, you can please, send your stories to Advaita, or you can send it
Yeah,
to us also. You can
send it
send
to
it to us.
Samar.
No, no, please do. I'll be more than happy
I'm
to
not a money lady. I want to be, but I'm not right
so
now.
yeah, so I mean, you can send us your stories and stuff, and we'll be more than happy to listen to them because, like I said, we're all looking for new stories and interesting stories all the time.
Thanks, Samar. And I'm going to hand over back to Shafali.
That was nice. Thank you. Thank you. The future of Bollywood and OTT, it was truly amazing to have a session revolving around this topic because the world of entertainment fascinates one and all. On behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I would like to thank Mr. Samar Khan for sharing his brilliant thoughts and perspectives on the topic. I express my gratitude to you, Mr. Khan, and to Ms. Kala for hosting today's session on her YouTube channel and engaging in a cherishing rendezvous with Mr. Samar Khan. I would also like to express my sincerest gratitude to patron Sri Cement Limited and associate Kahali. Last but not the least, a big thank you for an amazing and receptive audience. Thank you for taking out your precious time and attending the online chat session. Goodbye to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.